Welcome to another live edition here on the Rock Pile every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Thanks for tuning in tonight for viewers that are catching it live or you're catching it on the replay. Tonight's show, as is every show, it's interactive. So if you want to interact with the show, ask Jeff any questions, myself any questions, just put in the comment box. I'll bring as many over as I can for the duration of the show. Remember to follow me on Facebook. Just go right to my Facebook page. You can follow me on all social media outlets. As well. Tonight's guest, I'm really looking forward to talking a little bit about Accelerate Sports. We'll talk about some sports as well, so I'm always excited to talk sports. So without further ado, let's see if I can bring him on here. We're going to talk to Jeff Knittell. He is the general manager at Accelerate Sports. So let's see if we can get Jeff in the picture here. There he is. How we doing, Jeff?
Good. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Excited to have you. And it's always nice to talk sports, but I have to always realize that my straight sports talk show's on Saturday morning, so this one's a little bit different, but I'm always happy to talk a little bit of everything.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
So Jeff, I didn't know. I knew you were a really good athlete. I didn't know how great of an athlete you really were until obviously I went on and did some research on you. But a lot of people reached out to me and said, is that Jeff the soccer player? That was the really good soccer player? And I said, yep, that's him. He's coming on tonight. So before we get into Accelerate, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I grew up in Chenango, so not too far from Accelerate. Started playing soccer there young. My brother was playing, so I jumped on his teams and played every sport. So I played baseball, basketball, soccer, anything that was really going on in the neighborhood, we would play and then organized. And then basically soccer just started kind of taking over. So I was starting to do pretty well with it. So I started getting asked to play on certain teams and a little bit more focused on soccer. And then started making some they had Olympic development program then. It's still around now, but just started making teams, state team, regional team, and then made the national pool. So it kind of put me away from really being able to do the other sports at that point. So I just started focusing solely on soccer, played a little bit of like tennis and stuff in high school just to give myself a little break. But then went to SU, played there, and went on, played professional a little bit, very kind of like a AAA, if people, relate it to baseball.
Yeah.
That level. And then just, pretty much just started coaching after, and 20 years at a facility out in Syracuse, and then now I'm here at Accelerate.
So Jeff, you coached high school soccer too, and if I'm not mistaken, you guys won a state championship, right?
Yeah, I coached at Fulton High School, which is just north of Syracuse. And in 2005, yeah, we won all my friends will say that we tied. Because we tied the championship game and they didn't go to penalties, so it was co-champions.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, it was really weird, really odd. Just kind of game ended and with overtime, and that was it. No penalties or anything. So we're co-champions with Pittsford Mendon from Rochester. Okay. But fantastic for the school. It was a great year. We had some really good players. And we kind of started. I was there 6 years. That was about my fourth year, I think it was, that we won it. So it was pretty cool. So
how close you still follow the Syracuse soccer team? I would imagine both women's and men's still very closely.
Yeah, we try to. I'm still close with it's a new coaching staff, different than when I played there. But they're great. They're doing a really good job with the program. And last few years, probably the last 5 years or so, they've been really strong, maybe even longer. They went to the Final Four not too long ago as well. So it's been a good program. And then moving to the ACC changed a lot.
Yeah.
It's a little different for me to watch it and not still have those rivalries. So it's a little
is that ACC? I know when people talk, Syracuse men's basketball, I mean, obviously the old Big East days, Syracuse, Georgetown, obviously in hoops, Syracuse, Villanova. And since Syracuse has went to the ACC, even in basketball, they've really been about sub 500, a little over 500. Is the ACC in soccer a much tougher conference than the Big East?
It's a different style. So the Big East was kind of really there was a few teams that were pretty technical and very skilled. And then the rest of it was just kind of a hard, just like almost like what basketball was. Remember how basketball, the Big East, was known as a really tough,
physical
conference? It was the same in soccer. So you'd play those teams, and it was really tough games and just beat you up. And the ACC, and I'm pretty sure the Big East has probably moved more towards the technical game because that's 20 some years ago. But when I was playing in it, that's what it was. And then the ACC was kind of known as more of the skill, kind of very good dribbling, very good passing, that type of stuff. Whereas the Big East was a little bit more direct. So differences there. But I see it now. Like I go up and watch games, and I mean the level is just unreal from 20 years ago till now. It's like it's amazing. Yeah,
the game's changed so much, and even in all sports too. And Jeff, I want to just ask you, and this obviously a lot of the businesses that I've had on here. The first question I always like to talk about is obviously the COVID impact on your facility. I know it's impacted all the small businesses out there, and the $1 million question I think for everybody is, are we going to see Major League Baseball? Are we going to see college football? But talk to us specifically about Accelerate Sports. What's the impact been like for you guys? You got a visitor. Hi.
My daughter.
How you doing?
Say hi, Winnie.
How are you?
Sorry.
That's
Sorry.
okay. That's awesome.
She snuck out.
That's okay.
So I think, it's interesting to see because we check. All right, you got to get out, okay? You want to sit here and hang out. So, so the main thing is, I mean, we check this like Department of Health and the COVID guidelines and everything all the time, and we're kind of constantly checking that stuff. So we're in that kind of mode all the time of like what sports can do. And then I listen to like ESPN radio and I see, what they're talking about with Major League Baseball and NBA and NFL. And I think, being that there's so much travel, you're not sure how that's all going to pan out. I like the bubble idea. I think that's not a bad idea at all. But I would love to see football in the fall, college football, pro football, all that. I'm still hesitant to say that it's gonna happen. Because I think there's so many logistics that come into it that, one person gets tested positive. How does that affect everything?
Now, how about yourself? Did you guys ever shut down during all this completely?
Yeah. So we were down. I mean, we're still, kind of building towards when we can fully get things going again. So right now, March, I think it was March 16th when they kind of said, hey, gyms close. We put ourselves in that category and we're like, we're done. So we were done until they said we can start doing camps. So camps were June 29th.
Yeah.
So it was pretty much we've been shut down since that March 16th till then. So then we could start doing camps. We're doing those right now and pretty much, just trying to feel out what we're able to do.
And Jeff, how did you end up at Accelerate? Because I know prior to that you were running another facility. Can you kind of talk to us about the prior facility you ran and maybe how it compares to Accelerate?
So first facility I was at was the guy that owned it played soccer at Syracuse as well. And I met him through some alumni stuff and started doing clinics with him and camps and whatnot. And then just kind of built into a role of general manager towards the end. Probably the last 15 years I was there, I was managing that place. I spoke to Fred Burrows, who owns Accelerate. Yeah. I spoke to him actually when he was first going to open, and I was a little hesitant. I wouldn't say comfortable where I was at, but just making a change after that long being somewhere, I was a little hesitant to do it. And then we revisited it maybe like 3 years later. And just started talking to him again and kind of brought up the option of coming out there because I just was looking for a change. And the facility what I worked at in Syracuse was about 90% soccer.
Okay.
So now coming to Accelerate, it's challenging me tremendously because of all the sports that we can do there and all the things we can do there. So it's a completely different feel than the one that I was working at before.
And talk to us too a little bit about, because you guys, you guys added the outdoor field, but talk to us about the facilities, because I tell people all the time, I was a three-sport athlete back when I graduated. I was basketball, baseball, football, and I would have died for a facility like this back when I was growing up, to where I would have spent so much time,
Mhm.
there in the winter time, and just all year. Talk to us a little bit about the facility.
I mean, it's first class facility. I mean, if you haven't been there, it's got the inside was what we first started with. So as the indoor field, it's good enough to play. You could play field hockey on it, full field. Soccer, you can be about 9v9. Usually you're playing 11v11, so you're just a touch short, touch narrow. But it's perfect feel for the kids to do it. Plus, we can split it into 3 different fields to be able to use for these games. So younger kids play smaller field, and then you build it up to the bigger. 3 basketball courts, like top-notch basketball courts, all full size. Then upstairs is a track, 6 of a mile, and then we have batting cages, and then we have 2 fitness centers. So one kind of downstairs, one upstairs that you can do different fitness stuff in. So, and then we just built an outdoor turf field, which will accommodate any field sport, baseball, softball as well. And we've been since, right when that shutdown happened is right when we were going to start doing a bunch of stuff with the outdoor field. So we've been really just jamming on it the last couple of weeks, to get stuff up and running. But I mean, the facility Fred did his homework and did an amazing job building it to have like the best of everything.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, my son has been active there for a little while, and my daughter's 4, so I'm going to try to get her involved in some things as well as she gets older. But one of the questions I want to talk a little bit about and ask you is, I think nowadays we don't see as many three-sport athletes as we did years ago. Maybe when you played too, maybe there was a lot of three-sport athletes. I know there's a ton of them when I played. And one of the questions I want to ask you about a facility like yours, and I guess any indoor facility, if you're a kid that is a baseball player, you can play baseball all year round now. So you get a lot of kids that'll say, I want to focus on that one sport. Do you think the indoor facilities have hurt the three-sport athletes, or do you think it just kind of gives those athletes a little bit more time to work on just one craft? What do you think?
So I wouldn't say it's the facilities as much as I think just the general push for people they kind of think, okay, if I'm going to make this team at this big school, that I have to concentrate on this one sport for the year because everyone else is doing it. So I think that's kind of the feel on it. The facilities might create it a little bit as far as like if there's clubs out of there and things like that are running full, all year long, 10-month seasons and so on. But what we're trying to really focus on is creating that 3-sport athlete or well-rounded athlete at Accelerate. So it's more, can we offer every possible thing that they could try and create, like younger players try every sport.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have about 7 or 8 right now that we set up that are beginner programs, we call it, and they just go in and try their sport 8 weeks long, try it, see if you like it, try the next one. Because I've been in it so long, I see kids burn out all the time.
Yeah.
And I want to try to avoid that part of it where they can come in on a Monday and play basketball, and they can come in on a Wednesday and play soccer, and on the weekend and play tennis, whatever they want to do. So, but I don't know if it's really the facilities as much, but more the push of someone that's playing like varsity sports has played that sport all year long, and everybody feels, okay, I need to kind of stay up with that and do that. But if you're a good athlete, I feel like it just kind of falls in place if you do.
No, I agree with you. And a lot of time now the talks, I mean, again, back when I played, it was, we played high school ball. They didn't have all this travel stuff. They didn't have all this club stuff. And, to get recognized by colleges, you had to send films to schools. And I remember my mom and dad sent hundreds of films out. And now it's almost like you get more recognized if you're doing the club stuff, and you're on these travel teams. Do you agree with that? Do Do you think you get recognized more with those types of programs?
Yeah, so me being more in the soccer world, what they created, and this is a few years ago, the college showcase type environment for tournaments. So college coaches follow a certain schedule. It makes it easy for them to go watch these tournaments, and there's certain big tournaments that all the top coaches are at, and then kind of levels from there. Now a lot of it is if you can get your son or your daughter to a ID camp on the campus, that helps too. And then there's other type of ID camps that people are creating that you just like you meet at a facility like ours, and you have coaches run the sessions, and then they get to see the kids right on the field, and the kids get to see the coaches. So there's like this just evolution of it that's constantly kind of everybody's coming up with the next new concept of how these kids can get recruited. But I know from soccer, there are so many players in the country.
Yeah.
That I mean, you gotta put yourself out there. Like I tell kids all the time, you got to promote yourself too. So it's still similar to what you were saying, where you send a video, but because you want to promote yourself that way, but you also there's other avenues of doing it.
Well, my niece, my sister's daughter is going to be a ninth grader, and she's a goalie in soccer.
Yep.
And she played JVs this past year, and I think she's going to be a good athlete. But she's in like all these different club sports and travel teams, and my sister was saying every time they go to these different events, there's more college scouts at these events than there is at some of the high school games. And I'm sitting there saying, even if they don't have fall sports, my sister's like, well, if they don't have fall sports, Michaela's still going to have soccer because the club stuff is still going on.
Yep.
And again, back in the day, they didn't have any of that stuff, growing up when I was younger.
Yeah. So like when I was talking earlier, kind of my soccer progression, we really only had that Olympic development program as how we could get identified. And that was, so they were still coming to my high school games, but so they would see other people play as well. So, if they came to our high school game to watch me or someone else, they would also identify another player. So that helped.
Yep.
But for the most part, I think the coaches are so stretched now, the college coaches. There's so many events that they can go to. They can only choose so many. So it's hard to get in front of those coaches sometimes. So I always suggest to our players, go to those ID camps if you want to go to that school and try to be seen by that coach. And then they also bring in other coaches that might be able to see you, and then give us like 5 to 10 on your list and we can reach out. I'm sure Michaela's probably doing the same.
Yeah.
Now coaches will start to reach out a little bit and say, hey, keep an eye on this goalkeeper, or, midfielder, forward, whatever it is. And I'm close with a lot of college coaches around that we've played with who now coach.
Right.
So it's nice to be able to call them and bounce stuff off them.
Yeah.
Hey, how do you recruit? What's the best way to do this?
So, Jeff, you were talking about the facilities, and then you guys offer so many different sports and leagues and stuff there. And I think, and I'll have you get into some of your instructors and some of your staff in a little bit, but I will say this, my son was involved with the basketball, the skills thing. He did it for a couple of years, I think. And I went up when the session was over, and the guys that you had run the basketball were first class. They were top notch. I thought they did a great job. Baseball too, and all your instructors do well. Just talk to us a little bit first about the different sports you offer, and then let's talk about the instructors that you have.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, we've been so one of my goals, when I first came in, was I didn't want to just create a facility that was kind of one sport and just known for that one sport. I want it to be well rounded, just like we were saying, and it's great because there's kids that we see come in the door. And you're asking them, hey, what are you playing today? They're coming in and playing all the different sports. So it's so cool to see these kids be able to be well-rounded that way. Obviously we have the soccer end of it, baseball, softball, volleyball. We do field hockey is big. We're starting to do some tennis on the basketball courts. And pretty much those sports now. Lacrosse we're starting to dabble in a little bit, trying to build that up. And then, like you said, the biggest thing is obviously if you have the right instructors to do these sports, then they're going to excel and the sports are going to do well. And then we do a ton of fitness. So that's a big part of it that a lot of people don't realize we do. They think of it as a sports stick and ball type sport facility, but fitness is the next kind of thing that we're really growing right now. We do like an athlete development program where kids come in and they pick their class, they come in, it's just general fitness for those athletes. And then the next step is, okay, I'm a soccer player. I want to train specifically for soccer. I want to train specifically for basketball and so on. So you just kind of have these like layers and layers and layers of stuff. And pretty much anybody asks me about a sport, I'll try to make it happen for them.
Jeff, I think, again, I want to go back to the soccer piece because I think over the years here, at least locally, I mean, soccer's been big overseas for a while, but soccer has exploded here in this area. I think it's gotten bigger and bigger, which I think is great. Even when, my daughter at 4 years old playing AYSO, just getting involved, there's a ton of kids, and you look at the youth programs and you look all the way up, the numbers seem to be getting better with soccer. Are the numbers getting better with some of the other sports that might not have been so popular years ago?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the soccer is there's a kind of a like the foreign presence, in the Utica area too, where the soccer is rich in those areas. I mean, there's a lot of good players in this area for that. So that's going to continue to grow. The level is still going to be high. You got basketball is huge. I've found like baseball, softball is huge here. The lacrosse is not right now in this area, but I think coming from Syracuse, and it's only 45 minutes difference, the difference between the amount of people that are playing. But I put a clinic out there, and it had 20 kids in it, right away. So I think lacrosse will grow. The field hockey, we're really same thing. It's big in the area, but I think you don't have a lot of stuff where the kids can come in before modified. So we're creating clinics like in that second grade, third grade and up, so they can start to get the stick in their hand a little earlier and grow those programs. Like the camp we're doing this week had 20 girls in it for field hockey. It's fantastic.
That's awesome.
So, so I think all these sports will grow. And I think just a place like Accelerate, it will help it because you have so many options. And all these kids can do it. It's just a matter of getting it out there that we do all of this, and how it gets advertised and marketed is big.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. I think that you talk about lacrosse. I mean, lacrosse out in Syracuse, it seems like those kids out there play lacrosse from ages, 4 or 5 all the way up through. It's just like a whole different animal out there.
Yeah. I've been talking to a few groups around here in Syracuse that could potentially come to Accelerate and run programs and start building it that way.
One of the best things I like about, and I want to get into some of your instructors here too, and maybe we can go sport by sport if you don't mind. Mm-hmm. But they work on the fundamentals. They work on the basics, and I think that's one of the things. Even at the high school level, when I was coaching at Sequoia, was we didn't have a JV program, so we had kids that would come from modified right to varsity, and that's a big jump for anybody to go from a modified program to varsity, no matter what class you are, AA, A, B, C, or D. And it was just amazing to see how kids didn't know the basics, the fundamentals. And I think at all levels, I think we get away from that. So I like the fact that kids with your programs, you have your instructors and your coaches that are really coaching those fundamentals. And I think that's huge. I think we lose that with time.
Well, and I think what happens is, because I've been part of this as well when I was younger coaching, and it was almost like you have to justify, okay, you're paying this money for your clinic, and you want to justify like, all right, we have to do the next best thing that's gonna train these players, and then you lose focus on that you have to just do the basics, and everything else will fall into place after that. So that's our belief on these. Especially with the beginner clinics, we call them beginner players, just with going to soccer again, but just teaching them the basics of like what a throw in is, what a corner kick it is, what a goal kick is, just constantly doing that kind of when you're playing a game. We're not telling them, but we're asking them. Ball went out. Who's it off of? What's this supposed to be? Corner kick. They start knowing it. And so we talk to all of our instructors about that. Is like, don't go too fast. Take it slow. Train the kids, and then you'll see it start developing. And then what we do is in any of our programs, you kind of have that younger group, divide them up by age, but also skill. And then they start to pick it up, and then you move kids around in different groups. And, the main thing is that, like you said, I want these players when they move on, that they know those rules, they know what's going on, they know how to play the game, but they know the rules, they know all that. So it's just kind of building that into them early. And then if somebody's going, one of my biggest fears is somebody goes to a program and they're like, oh, I was doing this at Accelerate for the last 4 years, and they don't know the rules or anything.
Right.
I get nervous about that. So that's stuff we always talk about as a staff is, take it slow, make sure they're learning the basics, and then everything else will happen from there.
Now, Jeff, how much interaction, with the instructors, of each sport that you have, do you guys have or do you have staff meetings with them to go over what they're going to teach, what they're going to coach, what the program looks like? How involved are you with the actual programming itself?
A lot. So pretty much we're there all the time. I mean, most of us that are running programs well over 40 hours a week, they're doing what we need to do. So, during the day is a lot of programming. So that's like sitting in the office and going over everything and just talking programs over. And then people coming up, our basketball director coming in and saying, okay, I'm thinking of doing this. What do you think about this? And then, I'll let them run with it if we think it's a good idea, or there's times where I've tried stuff in the past and it hasn't worked. I don't know if that'll work. And we're always talking that way. So it's not like I wouldn't say an actual staff meeting all the time, because we're so spread out and just all running around. So it might be an hour here, I'm talking to one, another hour here, I'm talking to another, and so on. So it's just, and we have a great staff, so everybody gets along really well. So it's easy to communicate with one another too.
So let's talk a little bit about some of your staff and instructors. I'm familiar with a couple of them. I know Bob Cook a little bit. Who's
I'm sorry for that.
No. And I know Matt too, who handles the basketball, but you have a great group overall. Can you talk a little bit about each one of them?
Yeah. I mean, we'll start with Bob. Bob Cook was, he used to run Field of Dreams over in Schuyler. Came to us I think it was about a year and a half ago. And we just had a conversation. He was, the running the facility end of it is tough. I just want to coach. I kind of want to be really focused on that. And we just had a great conversation, and we've built him into a great role of just running all the baseball and softball programs at the facility. And the more I've got to know Bob, we get along very well. And he does a fantastic job. And I've learned so much from him just on baseball alone, just talking to him, just his knowledge is unreal. And he does individual lessons. He'll just do them all day long, keep doing those. Anything he needs to do. Softball, he can do quite a bit, but we usually kind of outsource the pitching end of it. We'll get some people to do that. But then he's doing leagues, set those up in the winter, and we're just continuing to grow those. So just his kind of passion for baseball shows. And the kids he's developed over the years. He went to Notre Dame, and he actually played against my brother in baseball.
Oh, okay.
So it's pretty cool. Pretty cool. We were talking about the other day. So, but just his experiences, alone with everything he's done is fantastic. So having him on staff, that baseball, softball program, unbelievable, because you don't have much like that around.
No,
that type of person.
Does a great job with it.
Yeah. And then, as far as basketball, do you know Matt
I do
Sprout.
know that. Yep.
So Matt does a ton for us as far as, I mean, basketball is his main focus, but he also does our flag football program and our volleyball. So he's just jamming all the time. He's just running around doing everything, does a ton of individual lessons, setting up teams for our leagues. We have free agent teams and so on, and he's coaching those. But Matt has been there actually before I got there.
Oh, okay.
Started a few months before I got there. And, Matt, we're always talking about how to create programs, fill the courts as much as we possibly can. So him and I are always in contact, but I let Matt kind of run his leagues and do what he does, because he does such a good job with it. It's just kind of like, hey, if you need anything, bounce it off me, and I'm here to help. But I mean, the kids love him. The parents love him. He's doing a camp this week that's just fantastic. And you could just tell the kids get a ton out of it. They come off and they're red and sweaty and get ready to, go home and get some water or whatever. But he's working them, and he's there early and gets the camp going. And, it's so nice to have somebody like that where I can say, all right, do this, fill the courts, and he does it. So, but Matt does a great job.
And then I know you have Nick Bibbs, right, that handles the soccer. Now, did you play with Nick, or did he go to Syracuse as well?
He went to SU as well. He is let's see. So he played right before they went to the ACC. So he's 27 in that range. But it's funny because it's like everyone says, I mean, it's like a fraternity. If you played soccer there, everybody kind of, it's just like a brotherhood sort of. And so Nick came to me and was out in the Utica area. He's coaching out there, and we brought him on, and I started kind of grooming him as a director of soccer, and he's taking it over and doing a really good job with it. So I'm pretty heavily involved with it, but I know I want to give him just free reign at it, which he's starting to do now. And again, same thing as Matt and Bob. The kids love him. He's great with the people, just how his demeanor, his coaching style, and being. So he's about, 15 years younger, playing at SU, about 15 years prior. Just the differences in the games that he knows compared to what I was taught. It's amazing to watch him train these kids now. So there's little things that I'm learning from him, So I'm teaching him how to run the leagues, and he's teaching me some of the soccer stuff that's the newer things that are coming out.
Well, what's great too, though, and I've seen it in the times that I've been up there is, even in my job here, I always say you got to have a good group of coaches around you. Even in my field now, I'm not coaching here at work. I coach in a different way. But if you have a good group behind you and you have a good group of leaders, it makes our job as the head coach is so much more easier. And to be able to put your trust, in your instructors, where you can just say, hey, you know what, have at it. I don't need to watch. I don't need to micromanage. You can handle it. That's got to be nice.
That's huge, because I'm pretty bad at delegating and saying, hey, go do this. I'm learning, and I've learned a lot from Fred over the last few years, just because watching Fred run his businesses and kind of the way he talks to me, and seeing that this is where you need to be used more, and then surrounding yourself with those people that can handle running those programs. And obviously, like anything, you're going to be little details here and there that you want to see better. But like with Nick, for example, with the soccer, I needed to just pull myself back on that instead of jumping in all the time. And that was hard to do.
Yeah.
So I'm learning that as I'm going. At the previous place I was at, my hand was in everything, because that's how it had to be run. The way we run it here, it's nice. Like I said with Matt, get this stuff done. Let's get the courts full.
Yep.
This is what we want to see. Nick, turf, get that full, and it just falls into place.
Yeah,
but it's fantastic.
I was blessed because my sister's been a coach for so long. My dad is retired. My dad coached high school football for over 40 years in this area. So I've been fortunate enough to kind of grow up with coaches, grow up in the sports field, and one of the toughest thing I know my dad would say to us when my dad retired from coaching and I took the head job at Sequoia High School, my dad came on with me as an assistant coach. And I know my dad always says that when you're a head coach, it's tough to be an assistant coach because you want to have your hands in everything.
Yeah.
So I know it's tough to delegate because, even to this day, I'm involved with coaching my son here in Rome, flag football and Pop Warner. And it's like, it's so hard not to jump in and say, you got to do it this way,
Right.
and just kind of let coaches coach. But so I understand it's tough, but you know what? It's just nice to have a group that you can trust behind you. It just makes your job every day coming in and being around good people makes it that much different.
Well, and the biggest thing that I really stress with our guys is communication, because it's very easy to just kind of fill in the blanks if you're not getting that communication. So people start to question, okay, what's going on here? Why didn't I get this game time or this schedule out or this, and there's so many things that go into just trying to schedule even a league. But I'm always on those guys about you have to communicate to everyone. That's the biggest thing. And so that's where I get nervous, is like making sure that everybody knows their game times, referees are called and they're scheduled and so on. And you don't ever want those things happening where they show up to a game and there's no refs and, somebody made a mistake. So I'm always kind of really staying on top of that. And then also when you have your teams, just informing the coaches correctly and all that. And it's very tough because so many things change all the time. But Nick is so good with it. Matt is so good with it. Bob is so good with it. Like, it's just, and is there always room for improvement? Yes. That's and we're always tweaking it just to make sure we're doing it even better. Because you want it to be a quality product and you want the parents to feel this is, I get the same communication if I sign up for baseball that I do if I sign up for football. You don't want it to be different. So that's what I try to do, is everybody's got to be that same mentality.
Well, we know how hard the parents can be, and
yeah, they're looking out best for their kids, so I get it. And the biggest thing with that is you just want to make sure that if you're trusting me to coach them and bring them along, just throw it in, give me that trust and I'll do it. The logistics and the communication, I get it if they want to bring that up, but it's hard on the field. You probably dealt with it too, right? It's, I get people like, I don't really know the rules, but why do you train them this way? And kind of, I'll do it. I'll get it done.
Oh yeah. I've seen it with Pop Warner here with my son, baseball. It's all over. I don't miss that coaching. I definitely don't miss that part of the game, but
yeah.
Listen,
I get on the field and it's you just lock out everything else and it's fantastic. And some of the hardest stuff is when you come off and you got to deal with all the excess stuff. Gets tough. That's one of the hardest parts. But
now you mentioned the health and fitness too. Is that Stacy?
So Stacy, Stacy Catalano's heading that up. And she's been there since day one when I got there and prior. And again, just clicked, being able to work with her, and she's doing phenomenal things with that. We're just continuing to grow it, because what we want to offer is similar to what we want with sports, is that everybody fitness wise has different levels that they can do. Correct. So like, you might have someone who's really kind of at that CrossFit type level, wants to do that. But you have the next person who's just like, I want to be able to move around my house and go outside and take a walk and, pick up my kids and all that stuff. So we have like different levels of these classes that we're doing and just continuing to add. And this was all in process right when this hit. So we haven't been able to launch it yet until they can say, hey, gyms can open again, So we're, it's been nice though, because we can actually take our time and develop these. So as soon as they say, hey, we're ready to go, we're going to start blasting that stuff out. We have another guy named Sal Ruggiero who does, have you ever heard of core boxing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're going to bring Sal in. He's going to do a bunch of classes there on certain days. He has a small place too in New Hartford, but he's going to also do things at our place. And so just adding those fitness things in that just, incorporates everything. You're not just coming into the facility and, okay, well, I can only choose this sport. But the health and fitness goes from basically the way we're setting it up, 6 years old to whenever, doesn't any age.
Yeah, that's huge. I like that because sometimes too, you put these young kids, they throw weights at them and they don't know how to do it. They do it the wrong way, and then you're talking injuries and all that, and kind of scares the kid away too, from doing it in the future. So I definitely like that. Talk to us a little bit if you can. I know you guys had different membership rates, packages. I know they're up on the webpage, which I'll put up as well, for people to see it. But can you talk a little bit about the rates and packages you guys have?
Yeah, so we do. So there's so many options, but the main thing is we do memberships. So if your son or your daughter's big with baseball or softball, we do cage memberships. So you just have a monthly membership there. If you want to do, you're more heavy in basketball, you do a basketball court membership. Those are both $60 for the month. So really, if you want to rent a cage, it's $30. So twice you've kind of already paid for your
Yep.
your cages. And we have people that do it every day. They're coming in using the cages or the courts. You can incorporate both of those together. So you kind of have that option as well. Cause we really, like we were saying before, that well-rounded athlete.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's interesting because people will just say, hey, I only want cages or I only want courts. So we've kind of made that as an option. You have a fitness center membership, which you can just come in and work out on your own. We have the adult class membership, which will be launched pretty soon here, as soon as they're able to open up gyms. But that'll incorporate all of our adult classes for one fee. So you just pay that fee and you can come to any adult class you want. So it's like boot camp, body evolution. You'll do like a spin class. You could do yoga, Zumba, all the way down the line. You could pick what you want. Go to those classes, like a mobility class if you're just sore from doing your other workouts. And then we kind of have a family option. So if you have siblings that want to do, somebody wanted to do courts and cages, they could sign up as a family and do that. So it's really kind of anything that they want.
A lot of different stuff out there.
Yeah, even if it's not on the list, we'll make something. We'll make it work for you.
And I know you have different rental rates too for different teams, schools can rent the fields and all that as well.
Yeah, so they'll do basketball courts. We have organizations that just rent the courts out. They'll do turf. Turf's probably the more expensive end of it, but you'll have like big soccer clubs or field hockey, baseball. They'll rent it out once a week, twice a week, hour and a half, whatever it is. They kind of pool from the kids. Okay, it's going to cost this much to rent the field for 20 weeks. And they do that. Cages they'll rent out. So like baseball teams, a lot of times what they'll do is rent half a field, train for an hour on the field, do their fielding, and then go upstairs and work in the cages for like a half hour. So we just have packages we put together for those guys. And then you have a lot of the courts too. Actually, volleyball was starting to do. We had a big program coming in that was canceled. It was supposed to start right at March 5th, I think it was, and it got canceled. So starting to do more of that. But a lot of rentals and then a lot of members.
Yeah.
And we just kind of coordinate it all together.
Now, what are just a couple more things I wanted to ask you? What are some, obviously I know the COVID's a huge challenge for all of us, but what other challenges do you guys have right now at Excel? Is COVID the big one, just giving the thumbs up to get everything going full speed again?
Yeah, it's like the guessing game, just trying to figure out what we can do. It was more, now it's a little bit more clear, but, kind of in that March for sure was just like, well, what is going on? And then it kind of slowly started to progress and more info was coming out. And obviously it's just, the main thing is keeping everyone safe if and when they're there. And we have so many things that we've put in place in the facility now to take care of all of this, and help with it. But it's that's the biggest hurdle right now, is just the uncertainty of what we can and can't do and how people feel when they're there.
I need,
So
I need more. I know it's bad time, but you put the new field in, and then of course we get the COVID thing, and everything gets put on hold. But when everything's back up and running, are there still any more future expansion plans or ideas down the road to keep making it bigger out there?
yeah, I mean, I have a ton of ideas. I just, I'm always talking with Fred about them, and sometimes he'll be like, all right, I like that one, or no,
Yeah.
I don't. But I think the great thing working for Fred is that the expansion is kind of endless if we can show that it's going to work and that it's going to help with the community and obviously help with the business. So I think you'll see a lot of that coming up. It's just a matter of getting through this kind of tough time now and see how everything pans out. But that's what I love about Fred is he just will, okay, yep, just we'll get this turf field full. If we got to try to make another field, let's do it.
So let's fill the first one first.
Yeah,
Right.
and I mean we're getting so many people asking about it, so I think it's going to be big, and it's nice to have something like that when it's raining. You don't have to worry about canceling. It's just so nice to have, because the other place I worked at had grass fields.
Ooh, okay.
And that was like every time it rained, you just got nervous.
Yep.
I was like, what's going to happen today? And then you're fixing them the next day. So
Jeff, the last thing I just want to ask, I usually ask this on my Saturday morning show when I talk to coaches and athletes, but we all have those people that have kind of helped us out along the way. We've all had the ups and downs. Who are some people along your journey that you've looked up to and that you've looked to for advice and have helped you out?
I mean, a lot with my dad. That's huge. I'm always talking to him. We do a ton together, so I'm always bouncing stuff off him. One of the big things was when I was trying to decide if I was going to leave the other place and come to Accelerate, it was we were going. He does a lot of racing, so we were driving 6 hours, and we just talked the whole 6 hours, figuring out what to do. He's giving me all the pros and cons, and what fathers do. But that was great, just being able to talk to him about it and bounce stuff off him, and I do it all the time. So that's, I would say, probably one of the biggest ones, because he was always one of my coaches, and then would just do anything to try to help me get to the next level of what I wanted to do. So if I had to pick one, that would be it.
So I got the address, I got the phone number going across the ticker on the bottom. Is that the best way to contact anybody at your place if they're interested in hearing more details about things, or can they just show up and talk to somebody? What's the best way?
Yeah, I mean our hours right now, we're pretty much going from 8 in the morning or so when people start dropping kids off for camp to probably 8 or 9 at night. So we're welcome to stop in. Obviously, like everywhere else, wear the mask in. Just ask for me if you want to talk about anything. Call, and then on our website there's a contact us page. Just go to that and it comes right to me. I'll just get the email and I'll get right back to them.
Okay. And what I'll do too is I'll share the web page and everything for you guys on my pages and stuff. And this way we'll get it out there a little bit more. And hopefully I'll be able to see you soon. I'm hoping I can get both my kids. I got to get them into something. I don't know if we're going to have fall sports or not. That's up in the air. So hopefully I'll be out there pretty soon.
And then one last thing, if I can.
Sure.
One of our other instructors that we didn't talk about because the health and fitness end of it was Dawson Green. Have you met Dawson yet?
I have not. No. Nope.
I wanted to make sure I mentioned him because he is fantastic. Anything with fitness, Stacy's heading up all the kind of managing it all, and then Dawson's our guy who's going to be doing the fitness stuff, and he's amazing. So people come in and check him out too.
Awesome. Well, you got a great group of people that work there. They're great with the kids. They have a lot of patience, which I think is huge at all the levels. But you got a top-notch place. And again, I wish I had this when I was younger. I think it's great for the student athletes.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, and thank Fred too for putting it all together.
Absolutely. Well, Jeff, I appreciate everything tonight. It's good to see Accelerate back up and running, and hopefully I'll get a chance to see you soon.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate everything. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. We'll be seeing you soon, Jeff. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Thank you.
You got it.
Right.
So that was Jeff Knittell, the general manager over at Accelerate Sports. And as I was just telling Jeff, I mean, I wish that we had something like this back when I was younger growing up. I could have seen myself spending a lot of time there. And, right now with the way things are, we're not sure if we're going to have fall sports or not. Get your son or daughter involved in some of the camps and clinics up there. The instructors, as Jeff was just talking about, his folks, they're top-notch instructors. My son's been involved with basketball and baseball, and I'm sure my daughter will be involved as well. And his instructors really do take the time, and they really do have a lot of patience. And it's nice to see fundamentals again being taught. So thanks to Jeff tonight for taking the time and Accelerate Sports. Thank you for tuning in here tonight. I was off last week. I made a trip down to Minnesota with my wife and family for the week, so I'm excited to be back. Next week's show, I will have Demetrius Zordos, the Zordos family, owners of Dippin' Donuts, will be joining me next week. I'm booking right now till the end of August. So if you're interested in coming on the Rock Pile, just shoot me a message on Facebook. If you go to my Facebook page, you can see all my social media links, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. You can see them all on there. A new feature that I will be having with this show is I will be live streaming on both Facebook and YouTube. So if you haven't given my YouTube page a like or a follow, you might want to do that for the YouTube people out there, the post. So I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Give the video a share if you're watching it on the replay. I hope you enjoy the show. And like I always say on Wednesday nights, the Rock Pile is where dreams become reality. I'll see you next week, everybody. I'm out.